Midnight on Bayou Road. Marie hated driving this late, but she had no choice. The winding back roads of South Louisiana stretched ahead, flanked by cypress trees draped in Spanish moss. The humidity clung to her skin, and the only sound was the hum of her tires on the cracked asphalt. Then, her car sputtered. The dashboard flickered. "Come on, not now," she muttered, gripping the wheel. But the engine coughed, jerked, and died. Silence. She exhaled sharply, reaching for her phone. No signal. Of course. She was too far from town, stuck in the middle of nowhere. She could walk back, but that meant miles in the dark, alone. A dull headache throbbed at her temples, probably stress. Then, tap. Marie's breath hitched. The sound was light, deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. Someone, or something, was knocking on her window. Her fingers hovered over the ignition, uselessly turning the key. Nothing. Slowly, she turned her head. Outside the driver's window, barely visible in the dim glow of the moon, stood a figure. Its face was obscured, but she could feel its eyes on her, watching, waiting. A whisper slid through the crack of the window, curling around her like smoke. "Get out." Marie's chest tightened. Her limbs felt heavy. "No," she whispered, swallowing against the nausea rising in her throat. A pause. Then, the voice again, closer this time. "You need to get out." The locks clicked open. Marie's breath hitched. She scrambled, pressing the button to relock the doors, her hands trembling. But her fingers fumbled, her vision blurring. The headache pounded harder now. And then, silence. She forced herself to look. The figure was gone. Her breath slowed, but the air inside the car felt thick, too thick. Her lungs struggled against it. The dizziness deepened. Then, a whisper. But it wasn't outside. It was behind her. Her reflection in the rearview mirror caught movement. The back seat was no longer empty. Marie screamed, yanking the door handle and throwing herself into the night. She stumbled, legs weak, but she ran. Down the road. Away from the car. Away from whatever had been inside with her. The gravel cut into her bare feet as she sprinted, lungs burning. She could see a break in the trees ahead. The road finally ending. She'd reach the main highway, flag someone down. But as she broke through the darkness, she stopped. Her car sat ahead of her, idling. The headlights burned into the night, the engine humming as if it had never stalled. Her breath came in short gasps. This wasn't possible. Slowly she stepped forward, her legs moving despite every part of her screaming to run in the other direction. Then she saw it. Through the windshield, slumped over the wheel, was herself. Her skin was pale, her eyes vacant. Blood trickled from her temple. The pieces snapped together. The dizziness, the headache, the exhaustion. Her car hadn't stalled. It had been running. The exhaust leak. She wasn't lost. She wasn't trapped. She was dead. A hand rested on her shoulder. Cold. Familiar. "You should have gotten out," the voice whispered. And then, darkness.